With My Hero Academia being one of the biggest shonen superhero franchises in the world, there are bound to be some controversies that spring up over the years, just like how any other superhero franchise has, such as how certain characters are depicted, though this can easily be chalked up to shonen stereotypes and tropes that can be found in almost every shonen manga. But there is one controversy that the series creator Horikoshi found themselves in that nearly almost ended My Hero Academia in its entirety, with a singular revelation of a character's true identity and its possible ties to a dark part of Japan's history regarding Unit 731 and the countless deaths of prisoners of war. Detroit, smash that like button and subscribe to the Kiroki channel if you enjoy the video as we dive into the controversy that almost killed My Hero Academia. Also, for a disclaimer, since the video does deal with a sensitive topic, I do want to say that while I am a My Hero Academia fan, I do not in any shape or form agree with the atrocities that took place in World War II. Also, please do not send any hate to anyone for how you feel about this situation. Now, in 2020, the climax of My Hero Academia's Rise of Villains saga featured some of the biggest revelations in the series, like the villain Dobby revealing himself to be the son of the pro-hero Endeavor. This revelation was so huge that at the time, it had outtrended the US election. But several months prior, at the beginning of the saga's climax, the Paranormal Liberation War arc, we would get a revelation that would set the fandom on fire. Literally. During the beginning of this arc, we would see the heroes begin their raid on the villains, launching a massive coordinated attack on the Paranormal Liberation front in order to prevent the series' main antagonist, Tomura Shigaraki, from gaining immense power. Across the two main fronts in the war, we have the Jakku General Hospital and Gunga Mountain Villa, with the controversy taking place at the hospital. With the heroes raiding the hospital, the first villain to be confronted is Dr. Ujiko. For context, Ujiko is a villain who was the right-hand man to the series' main big bad All for One. Ujiko would conduct human experiments leading to the creation of the Nomu, who were reoccurring villains that are basically mindless drones that would follow the orders of the main villains and fight the heroes. The guy was pretty much evil to his core and extremely loyal to All for One, to the point that it's hinted at in the series that Ujiko had even turned his own grandson into the flying Nomu that appeared early on in the series, that kidnaps the main protagonist Deku and is killed off by the villain Stain, and not once do we ever see Ujiko feel bad for this Nomu that could potentially be his own grandson, nor does he regret committing all of these atrocities to the people he did these awful human experimentations on, as he did it all for One, a man who he essentially sees as a god. The majority of these Nomu were once people that had their lives taken from them completely against their will. Yes, I know I yapped a bit about Ujiko and who his character is, but it's really important that this context is here before I get to the reveal, because the series and Horikoshi himself doesn't at all paint Ujiko in a positive light. Everything that he does is for the sake of All for One and his goal of creating a body that can withstand powerful quirks in order to rule the world and achieve his ultimate goal of taking back One for All from Deku, the series' main protagonist. And it's viewed as horrifying and terrible, where you, the viewer, thanks to the prequel series My Hero Academia Vigilantes and bits from the main series, feel bad for the people who were forced to become Nomu and have to be taken out by the heroes because of there being no real way to revert these people back to normal. Now, at the hospital, we get the reveal of Ujiko's real name, as Ujiko has been an alias this entire time, and it's revealed that Dr. Ujiko's real name is Maruta Shiga. For some of you at first glance, this isn't really a big deal, it's just a character's name. What's the problem? World War II. World War II is the problem here, and more specifically what Japan did in World War II to prisoners of war who were mostly Chinese. Ujiko being someone who conducted human experiments experiments, turning people into Nomu, and his name having been officially revealed to be Maruta Shiga, evoked memories of the Imperial Japanese Army's notorious Unit 731. The facility engaged in wartime biological and chemical warfare research in northeastern China. Some of the most vile and messed up human experiments were done by Unit 731, and the prisoners were referred to as Maruta, meaning logs, a term used to dehumanize them as they weren't even looked at as people, but as logs in a lumber mill, treating them as material and objects to be consumed and discarded. I won't go into too much detail on what exactly went on in Unit 731, as the accounts are horrifying, but I will say their actions resulted in an estimated 14,000 people no longer being with us directly from brutal human experimentation within the facility, as well as an estimated 500,000 people no longer being with us due to Unit 731 conducting biological warfare field tests on people in Chinese villages and cities. It's even possible that these numbers could be even higher than what I said. Needless to say, this was dark, and Unit 731 is considered a major stain on Japanese history. And while Japan would want you to forget about this, a lot of the people who were affected by this just can't. Mind you, at the time, My Hero Academia was extremely popular in China, so when the chapter had leaked a little early and then officially released with Ujiko's name being officially placed as Maruta Shiga, pretty much all of China was offended by this, and they did have a right to be upset, especially if the name was meant to be offensive. Tons of people ended up burning all of their My Hero Academia manga and merch. Anything My Hero Academia related that they owned was engulfed in flames. People were even sending death threats to Horikoshi, which I don't agree with, and they wanted the series to get axed because of this, and demanded an apology for seemingly naming a character after the victims of Unit 731. On top of this, Chinese digital platforms removed the anime and manga entirely, officially banning My Hero Academia in China. Horikoshi would issue an apology expressing how sorry he was for the name, and explaining how in the story, the character, in wanting to feel close to All For One, took part of All For One's last name, Shigaraki, and made it his own, giving us the name Shiga. Horikoshi had gave Ujiko the first name Maruta simply because the character is round and plump. Any other meaning was coincidental, and he had no intention of hurting so many readers, apologizing from the bottom of his heart. When looking up the word Maruta, despite the word literally meaning a wooden log, the word itself is compounded of the kanji maru, meaning round, and ta, meaning plump and thick, and the character himself is pretty big. Horikoshi is pretty much known for doing this with his characters, where the kanji within a character's real name means something that references the character in some way, like how Deku's real name is Izuku Midoriya, and contains the kanji for the number 9, calling back to how Deku ends up becoming the 9th user of One For All. Personally, I feel Horikoshi truly didn't have any negative intentions when revealing Ujiko's real name. Horikoshi himself said this was not his intention, and given his track record with other characters, it's in line with how he goes about naming other characters in the series. Many fans will point out that if it was intentional, the name still fits and references a horrible point in Japanese history, and the name was given to a character who is a Japanese evil scientist, and Horikoshi not once throughout the series shows this character in a positive light, making sure his actions are never glorified in any way through the eyes of the heroes or for the readers. You aren't meant to like this character, which would mean that Horikoshi, from the perspective of these fans in defense of him, believed that what had happened then was evil, and this is how he decided to show this through his story. Other fictional works do this all the time, where characters or organizations or military groups are named or modeled after terrible people, organizations, and military groups in real life. Star Wars does this exact same thing, with the Empire being modeled after Germany and their actions during World War II, and referencing loads loads of the unjust things that they and the Axis powers in general have done during the war. Think of the countless villains in Marvel and DC who happen to be German or reference or have direct relations to the Axis powers, such as the Red Skull and Hydra from Marvel. All villains who aren't viewed in a good light, with some of those same villains being part of their own twisted versions of human experimentation. After the apology from Horikoshi in Weekly Shonen Jump, Ujiko's real name would be changed from Maruta Shiga to Kyudai Garaki. Horikoshi still keeping up with the same naming structure, where the kanji for Kyudai would translate to the words ball, sphere, round, and big, referencing his weight and body shape, and Garaki of course referencing All For One's last name, and Ujiko wanting to feel closer to All For One, taking part of his last name and making it his own. And while you would think the controversy would end here, it didn't, as when people had noticed the original name referencing the concentration camp Unit 731 and their connection to the Axis powers of World War II, some of those same people would go full conspiracy theorist mode and start looking at the birth dates of all of the characters in My Hero Academia and connecting them to the birth dates of leaders from the Axis powers. Yes, it was that deep for some people, and yes, some of this did come out from people simply just hating the series for simply not liking it and not wanting My Hero Academia to succeed any further than it already has. But for everyone with some common sense, tons of characters in all types of fiction and even real people in real life share birth dates with people who happen to be monsters and have done terrible things to others in real life. These simple coincidences shouldn't mean that you or these characters have any real ties to these terrible people. And this specific part of the controversy would quickly end, meaning nothing in the long run. But despite the character's name being changed and having received an apology from Horikoshi, My Hero Academia to this day remains banned in mainland China. In recent times, people who cosplay My Hero Academia in China receive tons of harassment and hate because of what they believe the series to represent. And most recently, Chinese social networking sites have criticized the series Detective Conan for collaborating with My Hero Academia. While many have moved on from the controversy, it's clear the outrage fueled from it still persists to this day. My Hero Academia opened a wound that hit really close to home for the people of China, whether it was intentionally done to highlight and frame what happened in World War II as bad, or simply just a complete misunderstanding, as Horikoshi had stated. I think what matters is how Horikoshi handled the situation in the end. He owned up to it and regretted how the name had upset and offended a lot of his fans. He apologized and changed Ujiko's name to let everyone know that he really wasn't trying to offend anyone with the original name. But unfortunately, I don't see My Hero Academia being unbanned in China anytime soon. Regardless, My Hero Academia at the end of the day is still very successful and is regarded as one of the best superhero franchises out there, having done countless collaborations with other franchises such as Marvel, and is currently celebrating the anime's 10th anniversary, with a live-action adaptation currently in the works. I definitely would love to hear all of your thoughts on this controversy in the comment section below. And with that said, I'll see you all in the next one.